Previously, on the journey of Hilda, our protagonist arrives in Stoneshard with her spear. After taking on the necessary quests and remembering to learn her first abilities, Hilda decides to accept her first contract at Odar's request. She makes a brief stop at the mill to rest and cook something before setting out. On the road, battles begin. Testing her new abilities, Hilda uses her reach, immobilization, and bleed effects to defeat her enemies with precision. Soon she learns a new spear technique, one that completely immobilizes her foes, making her combo deadly. They tried to ambush her while she slept, but Hilda handled it masterfully, finishing the fight with precise strikes. Finally, she enters her main mission. The battles seemed like mere training for her. The boss tried to intimidate her, but it didn't work. With great skill, Hilda dominated the fight, completed her objectives, and returned to Osbrook, finishing both the blacksmith's task and the contract Odar had given her. And now, the adventure continues right where the previous chapter ended. Don't miss a single step of Hilda's journey in this thrilling story full of challenges, battles, and new choices.
Hi guys, how are you doing today? What did you think about Hilda's first episode? I hope you liked how the story began and how we've been testing this new weapon style. I had never used it before, and honestly, it really surprised me in a good way. We'll probably use magic to strengthen its advantages and try to cover its weaknesses. I've noticed that the spear works best when kiting enemies or waiting for the right moment to immobilize them. So keeping that in mind, we'll choose our magic skills to make the spear even more effective. And with that, we continue Hilda's journey. Let's buy what we need and take care of business in Osbrook, and gradually make our way toward our goal. The Bloodsucker's Dungeon, as Leosthenes would say. A fight to warm up for today. Let's go. Alright, now I'm in fight mode. Ready for the dungeon. Let's make a quick stop at the Drunken Woodsman Inn. Check if there's anything interesting, and then keep moving. On our way to the dungeon, I'd like to explore a bit. Maybe we'll run into a wolf or something around our current hunting level. If we're lucky, we could add a bonus to our bone charm from the loot we get while skinning. Those items sound really tempting for Hilda, all of them related to hunting. For now, I don't think I'll go for them yet, but I'll definitely keep them in mind for the future. When the time comes to get them and make the most out of them.
On her way to the dungeon, Hilda ventured deep into the woods. The rain accompanied her, each drop echoing softly as it struck the trees around her. She explored the area carefully, step by step, until she stumbled upon a mercenary camp, and the battle began. Hilda turned the fight to her advantage. She waited patiently with her spear ready, positioning herself behind trees to block the archer's sight, immobilizing every foe who dared to come close. One by one, her enemies fell. At last, only the archer remained. Hilda closed the distance, moving from tree to tree until he was within reach. A few precise strikes were enough to end the fight. With victory secured, she took a moment to make use of the camp, rest, and then continue her journey through the rain-soaked forest.
All right, guys, we had a nice bit of exploration in the rain and some cool fights, but now it's time to dive into the dungeon. Let's see how Hilda handles this kind of enemy and what conclusions we can draw. If we need to change strategies, we'll do it on the fly. If you're enjoying the content I'm creating, I'd really appreciate it if you show it with a like. And if you haven't joined the ChillQuest community yet, now's the perfect time. With that said, I'll leave you with the video. I promise it's going to be great. What a weird fight. At first, it was all fumbles and dodges. Neither the enemy nor we could land any real hits. But once Hilda managed to immobilize the enemy, everything became much more controlled and precise. These loud ladies aren't a huge problem on their own, but they can break your combos or crowd control chains. Their screams cause daze, but the rest of their kit isn't really dangerous. Alright, the boss fight came up fast, especially since T1 dungeons are single floor. Pretty common. We're going with the same tactic, pulling enemies in lines, immobilizing them, and taking them down one by one while waiting for cooldowns. Let's see how it goes. Look, I accidentally found a new strategy. With the net, I can target the enemy standing right at the spear's maximum range, and that makes my skill have no cooldown. But what if another target steps in between? It might actually be a good way to deal more spread out damage instead of pure single target in some situations. Honestly, for being fights at this level and in a T1 dungeon, they're surprisingly fun compared to other weapons. Or is it just me? I know we should take it step by step, but I'm really tempted to add those arcane teleports and jolts to the kit to see how magic affects the combo. Though I guess I should live up to my name, chill and take it easy, theoretically. Right now, I've got some downtime that I usually spend backing off and waiting for cooldowns. But I'm already thinking about how to cover that once we level up. With jolts, we could deal some extra damage and apply a movement debuff to boost immobilization chances. And with teleports, we could reposition or handle archers more easily. I think once we get those skills, the whole flow of combat is going to change a lot. Alright guys, dungeon complete. Let's head back for our reward and start planning the next objective. This time,
After successfully completing her dungeon, Hilda began her journey back to Osbrook. Through the misty path, not yet deep into the forest, she encountered another fight. She quickly took cover behind a bush to block the archer's vision, setting herself up for a close duel against a spearman. With sharp, precise movements, Hilda once again proved her mastery with the spear. Once the spearman fell, she focused on the archer, closing the distance step by step until she reached a lethal position. The archer was left helpless, and Hilda gained more experience, unlocking a new passive that strengthened her focus and power whenever she stood her ground. After defeating the bandits, she continued onward and finally entered the forest, where her first hunting challenge awaited. A lone wolf, perfect to test her growing skills as a huntress. She positioned herself, provoked the beast and waited patiently. The hunt was flawless. After being provoked, the lone wolf charged at Hilda with ferocious aggression. But she was ready. A well-timed kick immobilized the beast, and in an instant, she closed the distance, positioning herself where her spear became deadly. Each strike was precise, methodical, and the wolf soon fell. After skinning the animal, Hilda claimed her reward, the wolf's tongue, a rare component to feed her bone charm, granting her additional combat bonuses and further enhancing her prowess for battles yet to come. After all of this adventure, Hilda arrived in Osbrook. There she could rest, organize her belongings in the rented room, and go claim her reward with Odar. As we know, after a long journey, it's time to negotiate the items obtained and restock what's needed for the next adventure. Once everything in the city is settled, all that remains is to see what new contract Odar offers and head out toward Hilda's next adventure.
All right, guys, let's pick up our contract. We finished everything we needed to do in Osbrook, and now we're heading to the Undead Dungeon to test our potential against them. But look, before that, we found Bran. This guy sometimes sells interesting items for our charm. Like right now, he has Bear Fat Check Out Its bonus, weapon damage. We're going to buy it and add it to our charm. I love this Hilda mechanic. It gives us so much versatility. And as you know, I like builds or characters that allow for multiple playstyles. This charm is really cool. Let's make a stop here at Roadside Tower, a military outpost at the edge of the map. It has a camp, and we can also turn in contracts here, which is really handy since we don't have our own camp yet. So let's take care of what we need and keep moving. All right, there's something I want to test. Let's take these human enemies as an example. Remember how tough they are to kill. Then we'll face the undead in the dungeon to make a comparison. If this were the real world, skeletons should be much more resilient than humans, especially these that barely wear any armor. I feel like the undead would be the spear's weakest point. We'll check it out in a moment. Humans almost always go into bleed and usually last about 4 hits. We could say 5 at most if some were armored. Each hit deals roughly 15 damage. Now let's see how the undead behave. All right, here we are in the dungeon. let's test what we talked about earlier and compare it to the humans. I know these two enemies are the kind that take a lot of hits and don't deal much damage, but let's see how they hold up anyway. Alright, the damage against these zombies is even higher, but it takes much longer to take them down than humans. Still, the real test will be facing skeletons with spears or archers for a proper comparison. Tanks will always be tough, and I don't quite remember how we did against humans with shields. So for now, let's compare with light-armored enemies. Let's grab these ancient coins that can be traded for good gold and Bryn. Always remember to bring a crowbar to open these doors. It's really important, because lockpicks don't work here. I was thinking while fighting these punching bag enemies. Arcane damage would probably help against them, but I'm not sure if arcane damage is the same as sacred damage. Do you guys know if that's the case? Either way, we're going to put points into Arcanist, but I'm already thinking about strategies. This is my favorite part of Stoneshard, planning ahead and figuring out how to make our build even better. Alright, we've reached the boss. He looks pretty solid, but he seems to be alone. We're going to block his line of sight to keep him in close combat and try to take him down quickly, in case reinforcements show up. didn't get to test our damage against light skeletons. We only faced zombies, but we still managed to handle multiple opponents at once fairly well. We could probably have done better, but we'll improve the combat experience. I'll bring you more optimal and better explained fights later on. We looted everything we could and got out. Now it's time to go claim our reward and then take care of some business at the brewery near Osbrook.
And so, Hilda completed her Tier 1 contracts. Her first challenge is to prove her skill with the spear. What lies ahead will be even greater, and Hilda knows it. She's mentally ready for much bigger adventures with new zones and challenges. But first, she must take care of some matters in Osbrook, the brewery, and securing the horses Varen recommended for the journey. The real adventure is about to begin. And trust me, joining her in what comes next will be amazing.